Hello children, good morning. How are you all? Okay, so today's lesson, you must have guessed it. Yes, the best Christmas present in the world. So children, let's begin the introduction first. Let's have a look at the introduction, children. The lesson, the best Christmas present in the world, recites a Christmas story. Recites here means tells. Recites a Christmas story in the midst of a war. It reflects upon the longing of the soldiers to reunite with their families. On the other hand, it also throws light upon the longing of the families of these soldiers. One such wife, Connie, 101-year-old lady whose husband was a soldier in the British Army, misunderstood her visitor to be her husband Jim and called the so-called reunion the best Christmas present in the world. Okay, children, let's have a look at the summary. The story, The Best Christmas Present in the World, begins with the author making a decision about buying an old roll-top desk, which is in a bad condition. He had longed for one. He wanted to have one. What? Roll-top desk. He had a great longing for that. Since long he wanted one, and he was also confident that he could restore it. Now this roll-top desk was in a very bad condition, but he thought he can restore it. Thus he takes the desk home. And as he starts working on it on the eve of Christmas. Children, what is eve of Christmas or Christmas Eve? The day before Christmas is the Christmas Eve. Yes. So he finds a secret drawer that carried a letter addressed to some woman named Connie from her husband Jim. It said that it was his last letter and was dated December 26, 1914. It was written at the time of what? At the time of war between Germany and Britain. It enlisted the series of events that followed on the day of Christmas that year, 1914, or a wonderful thing that happened. In the words of Jim, he wrote about how the two armies that came together to celebrate the spirit of Christmas despite belonging to enemy nations. They forgot about their differences for a while and realized that they had much in common. See children, after all, soldiers are also human beings. They too have something called feelings. Yes, they shared snaps, sausages and rum. These things are what? Something to eat. The two officers, Jim and Hans Wolf, developed a good bond over a chit-chat. They became good friends. They both were of the view that countries should negotiate peacefully and resolve conflicts by playing football or cricket. The soldiers played football that day, and when all their supply of food and drinks was finished, they knew it was time to return back to their own trenches. That night, they exchanged Christmas carols. As Jim tells Connie about the day in his letter, he assures Connie of their reunion next Christmas. So Jim assures Connie that next Christmas he would be back and that they would celebrate Christmas together. The author who read this letter thought he should Reach out to Connie. He finds the address mentioned on the envelope and discovers that the house had been burnt, and Connie, 101 years old lady, now lived in a nursing home. He visits the nursing home and hands over the letter to Connie, who is immensely overjoyed on reading the letter. She misunderstands the author to be her husband Jim and calls him the best Christmas present in the world. So children, here's the lesson. I spotted it. Who's I? The author, the writer. I spotted it means I saw it in a junk shop in Bridport. What did he see? A roll-top desk. The man said it was early 19th century and oak. That means the roll-top desk was very old, of 19th century and made of oak wood. I had wanted one. The author had a great desire to have one, but they were too expensive. That means very costly. This one was in a bad condition. The roll top in severe pieces. That means broken. One leg clumsily mended. One leg was already repaired. Scorch marks, burnt marks, all down one side. It was going for very little money. I thought I could restore it. So the author was interested in buying it and restoring it. It would be a risk, a challenge, but I had to have it. Why? Because he had a great desire to have it. I paid the man and brought it back to my workroom at the back of the garage. I began to work on it on Christmas Eve. So finally he was successful in buying it. Junk shop. What is a junk shop? A shop selling miscellaneous second-hand or old out-of-use material. And what is Bridport? A market town in Dorset, England. Roll-top desk, a writing desk with a flexible cover sliding in curved grooves, clumsily mended, unprofessionally repaired as if by someone unskillful. Yes, so it's like that, children. Spotted means found, saw. So the story opens with the narrator present in a second-hand goods shop. He had been longing for a roll-top desk since a while but couldn't get his hands on one. Why? Because it was very costly. Finally, he saw one in the junk shop in Bridport. The seller told him that it belonged to the... What? What did the seller tell? Belonged to the days of the early 19th century. It was made of oak. Old that it was in poor shape. The roll top was not in a single piece, but one of its legs was unskillfully repaired and it had marks, burnt marks on the sides because of it being old in condition and in bad condition in which it was available for a very cheap price. So the narrator wanted to get it so badly that he believed he could restore it, so he purchased it on Christmas Eve, children. See, look at the narrator there with his roll top desk. That's the narrator. I removed the roll top completely, that is the upper part, and pulled out the drawers. The veneer had lifted almost everywhere. It looked like water damage to me. Perhaps the roll-top desk was damaged by water. Okay. So like that. So he removed the roll top. Yes. And what he felt was that perhaps it was damaged by water. Both fire and water had clearly taken their toll on this desk. The last drawer was stuck fast. I tried all I could to ease it out gently. He was not able to pull out the drawer. In the end, I used brute force, harsh force. I struck it sharply with the side of my fist, and the drawer flew open to reveal a shallow space underneath. That means the drawer came out, and underneath was a secret drawer. Oh my God. So a secret drawer is also there. There was something in there. I reached in and took out a small black tin box. It was sellotaped. To the top of it was a piece of lined note paper, and something was written on it. What was written? In a shaky handwriting, that too, Jim's last letter, received January 25th, 1915, to be buried with me when the time comes. I knew as I did it, it was wrong of me to open the box. So the author now felt that he shouldn't have opened it. But curiosity got the better of my scruples. He was so curious that he couldn't resist himself and opened it. And that is what he found there. Veneer. What is veneer? A thin layer of plastic or decorative wood or furniture of cheap wood. So what is veneer? A thin layer of plastic or decorative wood on furniture of cheap wood. Taken their toll on, damaged, stuck fast, shut tight, brute force, harsh force. Sellotape fastened or stuck with transparent adhesive tape. Scruples, feelings that make you hesitate to do something wrong. So the desk was in a very bad condition, and appeared to him that water and fire had clearly done enough damage. The fact that all decorative wood or veneer was coming out made it more likely that it could be water damage. So he removed the roll top entirely and started working. Yes. And when he pulled out the drawer, what did he find? Jim's last letter. Okay. And he knew in his heart that it was wrong of him to open the box. So inside the box there was an envelope. The address read, Mrs. Jim McPherson, 12 Copper Beeches, Bridport, Dorset. I took out the letter and folded it. So that is what happened. He found a letter that was addressed to who? There was an address written on it which read Jim McPherson, 12 Copper Beeches. So the narrator began reading it. What was written in that? Dearest Connie, I write to you in a much happier frame of mind because something wonderful has just happened that I must tell you about at once. We were all standing in our trenches yesterday morning, Christmas morning. It was crisp, quiet all about, as beautiful morning as I have ever seen. Cold, frosty was a Christmas morning. So frame of mind, particular mood, trenches, long deep ditches. The soldiers hide in the trenches. Trenches are used for hiding. Crisp, cool, fresh, invigorating weather, frosty, cold with frost, that is frosty. So the letter begins with an informal and friendly salutation to someone named Connie. Jim had written to his wife, Connie. Yes. And how was the weather? Cold, frosty. It was Christmas morning. I should like to be able to tell you that we began it, but the truth, I'm ashamed to say, is that Fritz began. First someone saw a white flag waving from the trenches opposite. So the war began. Then they were calling out, yes, across no man's land which belonged to no one. Happy Christmas, Tommy, Happy Christmas. When we had got over the surprise, some of us shouted back. So the soldiers are shouting, wishing each other Happy Christmas. I thought that it would be that we all did it, but then suddenly one of them was up there in his great coat and waving a white flag. Don't shoot, lads, someone shouted. White flag actually indicates peace, and no one did. There was another Fritz up on the parapet and another, keep your heads down, and all these things they were saying. White flag is a sign of peace actually. No man's land, disputed ground belongs to no one. Fritz, a name for a German soldier. Fritz is a common German name. Tommy, English name, refers to British soldiers. And what is a parapet? Parapet is a protective wall or earth defense along the top of a trench or other place for concealment of troops. So it all began, the Germans and the British shouting to each other, wishing each other Merry Christmas. Yes, that means they were in no mood to fight. One of the Germans was waving a bottle above his head. It is Christmas Day. Tommy, we have snaps, we have sausage. Come on. By this time, there were dozens of them walking towards us across no man's land, and I was one of them. I was part of this. The author is saying this. And in the middle of war, it is wartime actually, but they were trying to make peace. So snaps, a German drink made from grain. One of their men, that is Germans, was swinging a bottle over his head across no man's land. That means there is no mood to fight, Yeah, they want to share all that they have, eat, drink together, make merry. Why? Because it is the occasion of Christmas. Yes, children. So the officer could not even stop them. See, here they are found playing football. I cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Means, come on, brother, we are friends now, Hans Wolf, he said, gripping my hand warmly, holding tightly and holding it. I am from Dusseldorf. I play the cello in the orchestra. So they started wishing Happy Christmas and all that to each other. Captain Jim Macpherson, I replied, and Happy Christmas to you too. I am a school teacher from Dorset in the west of England. So now they are friends. You cannot imagine, dearest Connie, my feelings as I looked into the eyes of the Fritz officer who approached me, hand outstretched. Hand outstretched indicates that no more war. Now we are friends. Okay. So Wolfie said, gripping my hand warmly and holding it, I am from Dusseldorf. So he introduces himself. Yes. Outstretched, extend. Cello is a musical instrument. So what is basically expressed here? The warmth, the feeling of that festival, Christmas. There's no feeling of enmity. So he now expresses how he felt in the moment. It's far beyond that can be expressed in words or imagined. He was overwhelmed. That means he was overjoyed. Yes. German officer who extended his hand, introduced himself. His name was Hans Wolf. So Jim wished him back. Ah, Dorset, he smiled. I know this place. I know it very well. We shared my rum. Rum is a drink, ration, all that was there to eat, and his excellent sausage. Sausage is a type of meat. And we talked. Connie, how we talked. He spoke almost perfect English, but he had never set foot in Dorset. That means he had never been there. He had learned all he knew of England from school and from reading books. So his favorite writer was Thomas Hardy. Talks about his favorite writer. As I looked about me, there were huddles of khaki, that means soldiers everywhere, all over no man's land. They were busy smoking, drinking, laughing. That means they're enjoying. They were all in a festival mood. Hans Wolf and I shared what was left of your wonderful Christmas cake, Connie. He thought marzipan was the best he had ever tasted. So they agreed. Ration a fixed amount of commodity. Bathsheba in the Bible, the mother of Solomon. Marzipan is a sweet covering on a cake made from sugar, eggs and almonds. So here basically Hans expressed delightfulness upon hearing about Dorset. He revealed that he knows the place quite well, though he had read in books and all that. Yes, that means they were busy enjoying. They were all in a mood of celebrating Christmas. Then someone, I don't know who, brought out a football. Then they started playing football. Yeah, Tommy against Fritz. Fritz out in the middle of no man's land. So they started playing football, clapping hands, enjoying football match. See, football match, what happens? No one dies, yes. No children are orphaned, no wives become widows, children don't lose their father, wives don't become widows. Goalposts, in football, you have goalposts, either of the two upright posts of goal mingling mix or cause to mix together. So here there's mention about football. I'd prefer cricket, I told him. Then we Tommies could be sure of winning probably. We laughed at that and together we watched the game. Sad to say, Connie, Fritz won. So Jim writes to Connie that Fritz won, 2-1. But as Hans would generously said, our goal was wider than theirs. So it wasn't quite fair. That means the game was not fair according to him. So the time came, and all too soon when the game was finished, the snaps, runs, sausage, everything had run out. That means they had eaten everything. And we knew it was all over. So the time had come. They ran out of all the things for eating and all that. I think that is what every soldier wants on both sides. Hans Wolf said, "Take care, Jim McPherson. I shall never forget this moment." He saluted, walked away. Yes. So Hans replied by saying that reuniting with their families, because Christmas is the time when everyone reunites with family. Jim felt as if Hans was walking unwillingly, but soon he was one of the grey-coated men who moved back to their trenches. So as soon as they went back to their shelters, they started singing and dancing and enjoying, Yeah. So Jim calls it the time of peace and goodwill. And he writes, "Dearest Connie, by Christmas time next year, war will be over and I'll be with you." So that is what he wrote to her. So after telling about the amazing Christmas night, Jim tells Connie that things will be better and that next Christmas they would reunited. So I folded the letter again, slipped it carefully back. I kept awake all night. By morning I knew what I had to do. He drove into Bridport, a few miles away. I asked a boy walking his dog where Copper Beaches was. House number 12, we tried to inquire about that. Yeah. "Oh yes," said the old man in his slippers. He knew her. He's trying to inquire. a lovely old lady, he told me, a bit muddle-headed, means confused sort of, but her age she was entitled to be. Wasn't she 101 years old? She had been in the house when it caught fire, so no one really knew how the fire had started, but it could well have been candles. She used candles rather than electricity because she always thought electricity was too expensive. So she was somehow saved and moved to the nursing home, burned out, destroyed by fire, boarded up, covered the wooden boards, muddle-headed, confused. So after reading the letter, which he knew should not have read, he placed it back neatly in the envelope. The narrator could not sleep that night. The next morning, he knew exactly what he had to do. So he drove to Bridport, which was just a few miles away from his place of residence. He asked a little boy who was walking his dog, for directions of the Copper Beaches. He came to know that Mrs. Jim Macpherson was at the nursing home. Finally was able to locate that nursing home. There were paper chains in the hallway of a lighted Christmas tree stood there. Mrs. Macpherson. I said I was a friend come to visit Mrs. Macpherson to bring her a Christmas present. I could see through into the dining room where everyone was wearing a paper hat. She even offered a mince pie. She walked me along the corridor. So Mrs. Macpherson is not in with the others. She told me she's rather confused today. I'm sure she'll only be pleased to see you. She took me into a conservatory with wicker chairs and potted plants. So children, these are the meanings of the difficult words. So that was the story, children. It is slightly confusing, yes. So we'll do it once again tomorrow. Read the lesson. We'll revise once again tomorrow, children. Don't worry. For better understanding. That's all, children. Goodbye. Don't forget to read the story. Thank you. Goodbye.